my dog's trying to get out. He's scratching.
My site says the meeting is streaming live now.
It is, yeah, it looks like it's good.
Okay. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here at the Finance Committee. We'll call the meeting to order. We do not at this point have a quorum, so what we're going to do is we're going to move the approval of the prior meeting minutes to the end in the event that somebody else does show. We're going to, for the agenda of the night, we'll go through the amended 2020, 2021 budget. We're going to talk about investment policy and the change of the investment policy that's been recommended by KLC. I have a quick discussion about the Kentucky League of Cities investment pool for the monies that we have sitting idle right now, and investment thoughts, and run that past the committee. Amy's going to run through property taxes. We'll talk about the 2020 financial statements, and then we'll adjourn. If we get the opportunity where Dan is able to make it, we'll go back and approve the meetings. Otherwise, we'll just have public comments and thoughts and recommendations. Amy, is that sufficient to move forward?
Sure. So does everyone have their budget? Can they pull their budget up on the screen? Okay. So I've grayed out the changes that we're making. Just to note, the June 30th, 2020 fund balances came in higher. We had budgeted a decrease because of COVID at the end, and it ended up, we didn't have a decrease for April and May. And on top of that, we've got grant money. We got the CARES Act money, so we've got like $592,000 from the state of CARES Act money. So our fund balance, which was budgeted for about 3.9 million, ended up being, $5,155,000. So quite a bit higher, over $1.2 million higher. The same thing happened, with the revenues. So we had budgeted for the year we're in now, a 10% decrease from last year. Well, since last year's increased, I'm still using the same formula, but it increased because, those numbers came in higher. So I did adjust all the revenues up for that. And like the local bank deposit tax, which I thought this was interesting, came in a lot higher than it normally does. I just think people not spending money on vacations, and the bank balances, I guess, were just a lot higher June 30th. And so that number went up quite a bit. Court fines, I think, are based on, I don't know if it's traffic tickets or gas, but that went down because less people were up and about.
It would be warrant. Okay, just to be clear, we don't do any traffic tickets. It would be warrant service or things like that. Yeah.
Okay. I did, just to point this out, I met with the Kenton County Occupational License Department, and they said for this year, the revenues are only down 3% so far. So that's good.
We had budgeted 10%
okay.
reduction.
10% decrease, and right now they've got a 3%.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if it'll get worse or not. We'll see. And then the incentive, the state incentive for fire and police, that's just based on the number of employees. Police had a few vacancies. So that's why that went down, because that's basically paid by the state and then we pay it out to the employees. So it's just a pass through. So going on down, we do have, I think we're going to get some FEMA money for COVID. And then we did get a grant for the fire department to hire a volunteer recruitment coordinator. And to pay scholarships to like high school students or college students if they volunteer as a firefighter, but it's also about training and just getting people in the pipeline. So I think this year we'll be spending like 150,000. Wait a minute, let me see. It's all broken up into a bunch, but I feel like it was like 150,000 that they're giving us, and it's a fully covered grant. So you're going to notice down below, there's going to be increases in expenses because of this grant.
And just as a reference point, I know this came up in city council meeting, but hats off to the fire chief, to Adam, Chief Fuller. He's done a really good job of securing some of the grants for the fire department and making sure that we're staying on top of some of this, the opportunities available. So that's been fantastic for him.
Yes, yes. So overall, the amount available for appropriation has increased 1.9 million. And then right below that, it says department expenditure summaries. These are just the summary totals of what you'll see below. You know, administration, it just went up about 10,000, police 12,000, and then you see fire and EMS like 262,000, like it went up a lot. Public works 5,800, and then recreation went down about 14,000. As far as transfers, we need to transfer more to the capital fund. I'll show you what we're spending in the capital fund, because we also, Adam worked on a grant for a vehicle exhaust system. It basically removes all the carbon, the fumes from the fire trucks, because they're running a lot out of the garage, because that's one of the number one causes of cancer for the firefighters. So he got a grant for that, and it just, I guess, takes it all outside and filters it. The big change is the park fund of transferring 1,250,000 to the park.
Amy, real quick, if you don't mind, and I apologize for interrupting again, but that wasn't on our agenda, the park discussion.
It's the budget. It's in the budget.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah. So on the park fund, an increase from 500,000 to 250,000, and 750,000 is a loan, and then the other $500,000 is a transfer. So we'll get to that in the park fund, but that's just the summary total. So then, just looking down here. Oh, I need to change that. Oh, that's just like a summary total, but that decrease in fund balance due to Parkland, that needs to change to 750,000 instead of 500, because originally we had said a loan of 500. So anyway, the fund balance ends up being higher than what we had budgeted instead of lower, even with these changes. So wanted to show you that. There's just some small admin changes. You know, somebody didn't take medical insurance and they're getting a waiver instead. Our IT, we just switched companies and systems, and we got a new server, and so there was kind of a lot of startup cost on that. So that came in a little bit higher. And if you guys, if you have any questions, please stop me, please interrupt me. Our telephone, we got a new telephone system also. So there was some lingering costs from the old phone system that they wouldn't refund. So it increased a little bit. And then down at Kent County occupational license collection fee, that's just because the revenues are coming in higher, so therefore the fees are going to be higher. And then down below is that's what the server costs, the $3,800. So that's admin. Does anybody have any questions about the admin changes? Okay, the police expenditures, we already went over the state incentive pay, that they had some vacancies. And therefore the retirement goes down along with it. They did purchase some tasers, and it's on a 5-year payment plan. So anyway, we have to pay like the subscription price that includes, you know, training, and I think maybe the software too is in there.
Supplies, yeah.
Yeah. And the grant supplies, they purchased some full fire mask and canisters, which were covered by a COVID grant. So that's the only changes in police. That was pretty small. Okay, so fire, we did just start that volunteer recruitment coordinator. So this is a partial year salary of that increase. I think he started November 23rd. And then it went up for a partial year state incentive that he'll be receiving, you know, retirement. And then recruitment, volunteer stipends are going up because of, you know, hopefully he'll recruit volunteers, so they will be paid stipends.
How long is that grant for him to be there? A year, 2 years? With
I believe it's a 2-year grant.
2 year, okay.
2-year fully paid, fully funded for the position as well as the scholarships.
Okay.
So medical insurance, Social Security, workers' comp, that all goes along with it. Let's see. Training and development is the big one. There's detail there. There's basically $50,000 in tuition reimbursement. That's the big one. There's some in there for EMT training, fire recruitment class training. So that's covered by the grant. They also, in computers, let me see here. They have some computer purchases. I feel like it might be, do you know if it's like 3 computer purchases?
Yeah, they needed to purchase a computer for the new position, and then they had 2 that were in their shared space that were like Windows 7 and outdated and couldn't, not supported anymore. So I think it's a total of 3.
Okay. Down in insurance, the insurance came higher than budgeted due to the new fire truck. We just received that last month, and then we'll be receiving an ambulance. We had to add COVID supplies, so medical and first aid supplies are higher. Hopefully the rest of the year they'll taper off. Hopefully we're stocked, but you never know. As far as grants there, let's see here. Well, I guess they had to get uniform. They're going to get uniforms for the interns and recruits, so that's covered by the grant. It's basically uniforms. And then grant equipment, that's gear for the new interns and recruits. And then in equipment, oh, that stayed the same. So that's all the fire changes. Any questions?
No.
Okay, Public Works doesn't really have that much. We had a employee that had to leave for military duty. He got called to duty. So we're required to pay, I think it's 12 weeks of military leave, like when someone's in the National Guard. But we're short a person all year because the 1 year, it's over a year. I think it's 14 months. So we had to hire someone. So there's a little overlap of the 12 weeks that, and then the person that we're paying. So, and then he had to just buy a little bit of uniform to cover him. Recreation, as you know, not too much is happening. We left money in there just in case stuff happens in the spring and summer. But, you know, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to get used. So.
Let's hope it's used.
What?
I hope it's used.
Me too.
I know. Municipal road aid, the beginning fund balance increased just because of what we came in under budget last year. That's the only change in municipal road aid. Park fund, our beginning balance increased due to leftovers from last year. We've increased the engineering cost for rebidding the park. The park came in over budget twice. So the council just had to meet with the park board and figure out, do they want to do this? Because it just wasn't coming in lower and, you know, and the council has decided that they do want to support this. So down below in the park improvements are going to be $1.4 million. Like I said, $750,000 will need to be loaned to them over a 10-year period. And then they'll, and we'll transfer $500,000 and then they'll pay the rest.
Renee and Julie, have you guys heard about the upgrades to the Fort Mitchell Park, the General Mitchell Park?
No.
So the
No.
whole project started about, Andrew, cure me or correct me if I'm wrong, but it was last January roughly.
Maybe even before that.
Oh, I think it was before that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it got pretty serious in the beginning of the year. So with the park over there, there was a number of surveys. They did a couple surveys out to the residents. The residents responded back. They wanted to upgrade the park. They did a pretty good job as far as the inquiry about what is it about the park that you like and what do you want to improve. One of them is the actual physical building and the structure that's been rented out, and tennis courts. I don't know if you all play tennis or have been over the tennis courts, but there are cracks over there in the tennis courts area. So there's some maintenance that needs to be done, and I think some of the challenges, you know, do you do it and just continue to patchwork this, or do you do it all at once? And I think the decision was, you know, after it's all said and done, is between the mayor working back and forth, and thank goodness he's got a good construction background. He met with the engineers. We walked over and went through the park. We went through some different things. And the decision was made just to go ahead. Let's upgrade the park, make it do it the right way, and make it a part of the city that we can be proud of. They're going to redo the shelter area. They're going to update the tennis courts and resurface tennis courts. Andrew was the last update. Did they include the walk track?
Yeah, that was the thing that was most requested in the surveys was a walking track. And I think a really big part of it is ADA accessibility. So right, the park currently is, restrooms are not ADA accessible. The fields are not ADA accessible. So that's a huge part of it.
There's going to be some expansion in parking right there at the top. So that'll be out there. I don't think that they included the maintenance building.
They did not.
They're going to incorporate that. I think they're going to incorporate some of that into the shelter. Likely, in my understanding, is they're also going to we got about another year before that the playground equipment needs to be replaced. So I think, you know, there's also going to be discussion whether we just go ahead and do that all at once and I think incorporate it and do it right the first way and the first time, rather than kind of move this thing through three different projects and keep it under construction for the next 4 or 5 years. I guess my simple ask is if we, Julie and Renee, if we could, and we'll do the same with Ben and Kyle and Dan, but if we can toss this over to you guys as basically a case study, you're the finance professionals, and if we can kind of look at this and get this over to you, if you have any creative thoughts or ideas on financing or how we might be able to incorporate this or take a different look at it than what we've been. We've kind of been down into, we've been through this 3 times, I believe. And it also
This is going to be the 3rd time.
Yeah. And so I think if at all possible, if we could send this over to you guys to get a fresh set of eyes on it to see, from a creative standpoint or from a long-term standpoint, are we doing the right thing? And, how else can we incorporate some of this?
Sure.
Yeah, we have to look.
So right now it's just, they're going to be paying $75,000 a year. Since they are part of the city and it is the city's park, we're not charging interest. That's what we were thinking.
And through this entire process, I think one of the things that, Jude and I had, Miriam and I had talked a few times about it, is the park board is interesting because it kind of sits by itself, but it doesn't. But that park is ours. And I think we may want to, as a finance committee, come back and do we put some monies in there and incorporate, if we can, to help offset some of the maintenance of the parks. Because as we go, you build a bigger building, bigger maintenance, and so that we don't get in a spot like this where we have to come out of pocket for, $1.4 million to make sure that we're maintaining and doing the right things, and giving the public and the citizens a good park and paying attention to it. So I think if there's one thing that I learned through this is maybe collectively from the finance committee to council to the mayor and the park board itself, we probably need to do a better job of depreciating and funding that depreciation of the park and the items that go through it.
Basically just putting away like at the capital replacement fund,
Right.
just because, what the park collects isn't really enough to maintain it and then make, every 40 years or whatever, 30 years that you've got to replace things. So we're like, maybe if we put away, I don't know, 50,000 a year or something. I don't know what it would be, but the park board did come up with a 5 or 10-year plan. I think it was a 10-year. Was it a 5 or 10-year plan? 5-year?
I think.
I thought it was through the full term of the loan. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was. It was
you're
10
right.
years.
You're right.
So we did do kind of a planning 10 years. I think the problem with the park board's volunteers is just tough for them to, have the time to do, but they've got a lot of control just based on the the Kentucky statutes. So anyway, we just kind of sat down and hammered out a plan so that, we weren't, flying, by the seat of our pants kind of thing, just get a plan down.
One thing I'll leave you with too on the park is that in doing some research, so we're I think the only city in Kenton County that has a park tax, which is it's good for our park and it is what sort of established the park board. And that rate is 20 cents per $100 evaluation. Is that? I always get my 100 and my 1,000 confused.
it's about-
Per thousand. 20 per thousand. In order to change that, so when that was enacted, the law was different. Today, if we were to want to change that, it actually has to go to a referendum. So it would be a ballot referendum to make any changes to that tax. So, probably 25 cents per thousand fully funds the park plus capital replacement, roughly, but that would require, ballot initiatives are pretty extensive. difficult
Yeah,
way to
and
make changes.
if we can move that another year past the Beechwood tax that hit us last year, it probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, and so my point is not necessarily that that's the right way to go, but more to the point
But it's an
of
option.
it's an option, or the capital replacement plan that we have is a good way to put it away. But one way or another, we've got to sort of look at the long term. What people want out of the park and how that's funded.
Yeah, and I think from the perspective of the committee is not so much the next 1 year or 3 years is, but more importantly, the 5 years, 7 years, 10 years is, are we making sure that we're taking care of not just that park, but we have other parks in the city that, are probably going to go south and need maintenance too. So just making sure we keep everything updated.
So on to the road tax, we just had a few jobs that there was extra, I don't know what this means, but GeoGrid work to shore up soft subgrade.
Okay.
Anyway.
It's literally a grid of not fabric, but that they put down, that like orange construction fencing you see, it looks kind of like that.
Yeah.
And they put it down along with rock and gravel and
and then there was some Dixie curb and sidewalk work that was completed. And I think that was about it for the road tax fund. The capital replacement fund, just the fund balance increased about 120,000. All right, there's a lot in here. Miscellaneous building expenses. You want to talk about the dorms?
yeah. So we're we had discussed this project, and honestly, and I'll take responsibility for this. We underestimated the cost of this project and the planning for the budget this year. Part of it is, so the main largest part of this renovation is to take what was built as a group dorm in the basement and divide that into individual. Obviously, one of the things we've run into this year with coronavirus is when you have an infectious disease going around, you have shared bedroom space. That's pretty problematic. So, as we start to diversify our fire ranks and we have more female firefighters, again, that's not an ideal situation to have one open room. So we're addressing that. That project is also addressing a couple other things. When the building was renovated back in 2014, the HVAC system in the police department wasn't replaced. And that's like an old residential system, and it's coming to its end of life. So that's being upgraded to the same type of system that was put in the new parts of the building. The fire department's radio room has a number of issues, including asbestos. So this is addressing redoing that room. That is a room that sits between the fire bays and the squad bay, and that's also the fire department's locker room that's in there. The project includes HVAC for that room as well. Police evidence room is part of that. So we have, unfortunately, this was done as part of the remodel in 2014, but there's a standard in the evidence rooms for how many times the air in the room changes, because when you're dealing with drugs that can become airborne, like fentanyl, carfentanil, you need very good circulation, and our circulation is about a third of what it should be in that room right now, which presents a danger to the officers when they're in there packaging and processing evidence. So we're upgrading that system as well. And then there's a couple of other smaller projects throughout the building.
Yeah, there's a fence. Did you say the fence around the?
So that was the overall building renovation project. The public work, the fence that goes behind the public, actually it runs all the way down the side of our building between our building and Silver. It's in bad shape. It was not part of the remodel in 2014, and we want to be a good neighbor. So one of the things that's happened is price of lumber has gone up significantly this year, and actually there's a chance that it may make sense to go with like a vinyl fence that may last a little longer. So there's a little increase there, and again, just aimed at kind of being good neighbors. Public Works garage planning hasn't changed, so that's still in the budget to assess the Public Works building. That's a very, if you've ever walked back there or been back to that building with, they fit 4 large trucks in that building that was not meant to fit 4 large trucks. So there's, that's been in the works for a while. I shouldn't say in the works, but it's been in the plans to eventually rebuild that building. So we have some design money in there this year. The phone system, as Amy mentioned, we did upgrade our phone system this year, which had not been upgraded for a very long time. We do have money in for a message board sign for in front of the city. The city had one of those not all that long ago, but again, one of the things we've kind of gotten feedback for this year in particular is with some of our residents who aren't necessarily on social media or browsing the internet every day, an alternative to getting messages out about what's going on in the city would be helpful. So the plan is to put it most likely as part of the dusing lot next door to the building and eventually get some, make something out of that lot. And then I think that's it. That's the,
Okay.
oh, council room technology. We had that in there too. The council room TVs are very small, so we can't really do any kind of training in that room because you can't do a PowerPoint. You can't see a PowerPoint on those televisions. So we have money budgeted for that. Although working with our new IT vendor, I think we found a way to bring that in considerably under that number within the last week. So.
Oh, and I didn't point out, and I forgot to gray it out, but in intergovernmental above is $58,000 grant. And then the exhaust system is down there. So the exhaust system is $101,000. That grant was for one of the bays, and they decided to do all of the bay, both of the bays, I guess. There's a V-Box for the Kenworth. I guess it's a dump truck. It's a truck that hadn't been purchased yet. And so because, you know, these costs increase, we did increase the transfer of the capital fund. So those are all the changes to the budget. It's kind of an odd year. We don't normally amend the budget in the middle like this, but between the park and then in COVID and all the grants for that and the fire recruitment, I mean, just everything kind of came in at once. So everything had to change. So any thoughts, questions? Okay. The next thing, oops, is the investment policy. So you guys approved this before. So anything that is changing is either struck out in red, or if it's being added, it's underlined. As far as in part 4, I just put the control of what we have, like all the investments are approved by the mayor. I think a lot of times he brings Jerry in on it. So basically the investment advisor sends me something. If it's something I'm interested, then I send it to them and then they approve it. And then we make the transfer. I think
just as a reference point, Amy, just to let everybody on the call know that the only real change that we did is we had we put into the savings account the one balance early in the year, right?
This investment policy is adding what the state has added as allowable investments is what. So we're just upgrading it to match what the state changed.
Okay.
Is what we're doing. Let's see here. I did put like, what number is that? Under authorized investments in number 7, I just, I'm just looking here. A1, P1. Those are just ratings, just examples of ratings of what you're allowed to do, just for clarification purposes. Number 10, to shares of mutual fund and exchange traded funds. That's what was added in the state. And then 11 and 12 were what was added. Individual equity securities of the funds being invested are managed by a professional investment manager, regulated by a federal regulatory agency. The individual equities shall be included within Standards and Poor. It shall not exceed 25% of the equity allocation. Individual high-quality corporate bonds that are managed by a professional investment manager. And they are rated in the 3 highest rating categories. So that was all added. And then under limitations on investment transactions, we basically just added what they said, the amount of money invested at one time by a local government. The amount of money invested in any one time by a local government or a political subdivision in the categories of investments authorized in subsection 1. Is it JK&L or IK&L? I can't read that. Of this section shall not exceed 40% of the total money invested. At the time of investment is made, no more than 5% of the total amount of money is invested by the local governments shall be in any one issuer unless the issuer is the United States government. The money is invested in a CD or other interest-bearing account. The money is invested in bonds or certificate of indebtedness of the state and its agencies, instrumentalities as authorized in subsection A8 of this section. Or the money is invested in securities issued by the state or local government or any instrumentality of agency thereof in the United States as authorized in subsection A9. So all that is just state wording. And so because it did have diversification and limits just below, we deleted that just so it was consistent with what KLC had in their standard policy and what was in the KRS. I think that's collateralized. It basically says what we got to collateralize in the main paragraph. So that also followed the state. That was pretty much it. So our goal, I guess, do you guys have a problem with any of these?
No.
Okay. Our goal is Kentucky League of Cities has started a bond pool, just focusing on cities. And what I've noticed with a lot of these investment advisors is they don't really know the state laws for governments. They're used to doing individuals or corporations. And so the thing with the KLC bond pool is it's going to be all cities. And therefore, they'll focus on how conservative we need to be and to be in compliance with the laws. And we can try it, and if we don't like it, we can, stay with. We have 2 investment advisors we use now. So I think that the mayor just wanted to try it out and see what we thought of it. And so this way we can get to the point where we're in compliance with everything with the state, and then we could try some portions of that possibly. But wanted to see what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, and Amy, I think one of the things, just as a reference point to everybody on the call, there was and I'll forget the balance, but I believe it was I don't know if it was 100,000 or 150,000 that was in the CD. They were going to tie up for another 12 months. We were going to get 0.5%. Was that do you remember where I am?
Yeah. Was it even 0.5%?
It was 0.5% for the CD.
But it was
we moved it to a savings account for 0.3%, but it gave us liquidity that, so our thought was the ability for 20 basis points, the opportunity to be able to have that money and move it somewhere else to generate
Right.
something rather than tie it up for a year and a half. It just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, our interest rates are just back down again. They were starting to go up and we were starting to make good investment income, and then they went. So somehow I lost my, the next thing that we're going to go over. I'm going to have to find it here. The next thing is the summary of the KLC bond pool. Let's see here. Trying to find the email I sent you guys.
Yeah, it looks like they have 4
Is
different
this
options.
the document
PDF.
dated July 1, 2019?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
there it is. Come on. All right, I'm pulling it up now. Okay. Oops. I'm gonna pull it up the wrong thing. Okay. I'm sorry, it's just taken a really long time to open this. I thought I had it open already. Okay. So, I'm basically there, explaining what cities are allowed to invest in. I think they just saw a need with cities that, they needed more options because most people were just keeping their investments in CDs. And so KLC, I guess, saw an opportunity, and they're making money with this. So to bring cities together and kind of have a common investment pool. And I think most states do have investment pools like this. I think we used to, and then I'm not sure, why it changed. Maybe it's because the rates were so good that everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to go out on my own and get good rates when they were up to, 7% for savings and stuff, but I'm not really sure about the history of that. So the main thing I wanted to, and a lot of this stuff in here is just a repeat of what our policy just said. So if you scroll on down, I was going to try to get to the fees.
I think the first part, there are 4 different options, 4 different investment options. There's a money market option, an intermediate government bond pool investment. There's a corporate bond, and then there's one that's got some the S&P equity. And I believe you can, and these are just bits that we'll find out as we investigate further. Can we allocate different balances into each of those different funds? And the other question I had is, you go back onto the fees on page 8. And after Amy, after we had discussed this, I was looking. PNC is the management advisory group that's managing this, and it says the first $50 million, PNC is charging a 25 basis point fee. The KLC receives a 10 basis point fee for that, and I wonder if that's the KLC balance.
It is. It's the whole bond pool.
Yeah, the whole pool.
So it just all depends on how many cities join, that the fees will go down the more money they have.
Okay.
So worst case scenario is we'll be charged 0.35%. Best chance. Did I do that backwards?
No.
It's almost like, I guess, because it's almost like one goes up and one goes down.
So it's always going to be 35% or 0.35%.
Yes, it's always going to be 0.35%. KLC gets more money as it goes up. Is that how it goes? Yes.
It looks like it.
So it's like a seesaw. Anyway, 0.35% is that does seem to be like about the going rate with these other investment advisors. So that's the main thing I wanted to point out. I think we still have, we have ultimate say, and yes, I want that. No, I don't, but anyways, just pulling the funds together to get a good rate and to get specialization. So that's that. Any questions, comments?
All good here.
Okay, and if you do have any, feel free to send it to me, if you have something else at a later date. So that's that. The financial statements, basically, we went over when we went over the budget because we're adjusting what is going over or coming in under or whatever. So I don't really have anything else to say on the financial statements, except for that you probably know this, as you've got your property taxes. The property taxes all stayed the same. Tax rate stayed exactly the same. And your bill, I think the assessments should have stayed the same unless you did renovations to your house. So that was the main thing there. We just received that fire truck. That's in the financial statements. Got an ambulance being built right now. So that will be in the financial statements, which we budgeted. And then we went over all these big changes. So I'd say that's about it. And then if anybody does have any changes to the minutes or additions that you want me to add for the next meeting when we have them approved, let me know, because I can always just add it in if I miss something. That's pretty much it. There's been a lot going on.
Has the audit been completed or?
No, I'm in the middle of that right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was going to mention a thank you to Amy because she has been extremely busy lately with
Yeah.
all these changes in the budget plus the audit going on, and we've onboarded a few employees in the middle of that. So
And also Julie and Renee and Ben, Dan, and Kyle, again, thank you guys for participating on committee. That's a big help. Knowing that we've got like this with this park thing, if we can send that over and get some thoughts from you guys, that's always helpful.
Okay.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I
Motion
don't
to
have any now.
Like-
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay.
All good. Thank you guys very much. Amy, thanks again for all the efforts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amy.
thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Yeah.